Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Jakarta Tech Talk. My name is Serena, and joining us today is Otavio, who will be presenting on the topic of unleashing the power of Jakarta Data, exploring API-driven data, access for relational and NoSQL databases. If you have any questions for Otavio as we move through today's presentation, feel free to ask them in the chat or use the Ask a Questions tab. Otavio, without any further delay, over to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's super nice and amazing to be here. So before I start, please let me know where you're from. So what is you up to? And also, please, where you're based from. So, okay, Sweden. I saw Mike. Oh, so a long time, Mike. I don't see you. Ottawa, Canada. So the American continent is winning right now. So is everybody else from Europe? I'm from Portugal right now. I mean, I was not born here in Brazil, so America, but right now I live in Europe. But anyway, let's start discussing more. The goal for today is to talking more about what's coming next in Jakarta Data. So what is and why it is important to us to explore more the specification. Okay, so let me share my screen right now. So basically, this presentation could be reduced for what's coming next, hopefully in the new Jakarta E version. So that is the idea. So let's start again. My name is Otávio Santana, software engineer and architect, and super happy with doing several open source that everybody is using right now. For example, Jakarta E specification by itself. And as usual, we need to discuss why we should care about data, why data is super important, and why everybody is talking about data, especially because the data is not just a software, but it is also evolution of the whole humankind. Yes, it is one way to handle with the information that we're living with. If you think more, especially in the philosophy way, our first database was caves and temple. So we put the information there, we retrieve information from there, and eventually we delete information from there. Of course, the security is a little bit different. Right now, we don't need to handle with any wild animal. We don't need to handle with any light issues, but the information was there. Of course, with more information, with more time, with more people writing about a lot of things, we need to increase our ability to read and write more often. So we move to libraries, to books, to collections. And after that, we still need to organize that information that's still doing a lot, we still writing a lot, we still generate a lot. And we are living the era where we need to handle with distributed data, distributed integration, and so on. And of course, today is not to talk about history. Today is not to talk about the philosophy way of software, but to talk more about software engineering aspect. So why do we care about modern application? And indeed, why do we need to data storage at the end at all? So usually when we talk about modern application, microservice, and things like that, we usually think about stateless application. In that way, where the state is, because I should need to know the user, I should need to know the stock option, I need to know the money, I should know a lot of things. They should not be state, or should have a state actually. So this information goes to the database, to any data engine. Our current opportunity is on this kind of database, right? So we are handling that. And our next opportunities are also in data. We are talking a lot about machine learning, AI, generative, and things like that, because we are generating a lot of information. So let took the machine to learn what they were generating for us. And also the machine is generating more information. So the database is the state of our modern application, is where the opportunity is, and is where the opportunity will be as well. And yes, when talk about database, we know how important it is and why we should care. However, if you look to the internet right now, we have few or a lot less maturity model than when you do with application. We have a lot of paradigms that we are living with database. So we have SQL, new SQL, NoSQL. With NoSQL, we have a lot of options that we cover later. And on those paradigms, we have different flavors of vendors or who is implementing this kind of database. For example, right now, this one here I took from the Stack Overflow survey, where we do have Postgres, we do have MySQL, SQL. Those are relational database. And then it starts more options. We do have MongoDB as document database. We do have Redis as key value NoSQL database, Elasticsearch, DynamoDB, and so on. So we have a huge amount of options of database engines. It's not only a relational database anymore. It's not only SQL. And that's why right now we are living and handle with several solutions inside database. 10 years ago, we discussed about the polyglot programmer, or the programmer who is able to write code in different language, using the best language to the best scenario. Right now, we are discussing the exact same thing with the database, with the polyglot persistence, where I take the best solution to the best scenario. So we still having the relational database with SQL. Right now, we have at least 4 flavors of NoSQL database. So white column, graph, document, key value. Remember, those are just the most mature NoSQL database. However, we do have much more. We do have time series, we do have multi-value database, and so on. So it goes beyond. We have hundreds of database. So you can use one to the best scenario. And here we go. So hopefully you understood that database is super important to our application. And we need to integrate that because we do have our dev application, we do have the database, and how to connect those things, especially because those usually go around different paradigms, right? And to make it easier, instead of the reinvent the wheel, we can use what we already have, right? So we can use the driver patterns, you can use mapper patterns, you can use data access object patterns, active record repository, TTO, and so on. So those are the most famous uh, patterns to integrate with Java in database. And of course, each one goes to a different program style. And what does that mean? So there one approach that I go super close to oriented programming, so exploring more domain, object oriented, and so on. Another one, I will go closer to the driver, where I'll be more closer to the immutable aspect and things like that. Both extreme are fine. As usual, when we talk about patterns, when we talk about soft architecture, we still need to handle with trade-offs. So each scenario needs to measure the trade-off of that decision. And here you go with Jakarta Data. The main goal of Jakarta Data is to help you to integrate Java with database. Our goal is not to create a new API. Our goal is not to create a new NoSQL API because we already have those specifications. Our goal is basically to create patterns to use around database system integration. For example, here, so how can I access my application here? MySQL, NoSQL web servers. It doesn't matter. You might gonna use some patterns to make it accessible. So if you're gonna use data access object, if you're gonna use repository, doesn't matter. It's a database patterns, and that's our goal to cover on Jakarta data specification. Of course, we need to start from somewhere, and the first version will cover the repository feature. So as you can see in this map, this one is much closer to the application aspect, is much closer to the domain-centric way. So based on that, we explore more the code abstractions. We're going to use several ways to make it super close. But as you can see, it's a little bit far from the database. We lose some aspect of the database. Of course, we're going to take advantage of that. Later, I explain. But to start, we're going to start with repository. Our repository, we do have several inspirations. Of course, the main one is from the DDD, the Eric Evans book. So there is this one here as well that I enjoy a lot. I use a lot to write our documentation. So the Learn Domain-Driven Design and also the domain storytelling, where right now in the Jakarta Data, milestone 1, we do have 2 ways to handle with repository. So with built-in way and a custom way. The built-in way is you exploring the interface that we can provide for you. Or you can, okay, I want to create my own semantic, I want to create my own style to make it possible. So both are fine, both are supported. This one here is a sample of built-in. So I have my garage, that is a repository for car. As you can see, this CRUD repository is provided by specification. And that's the semantic here. So I do have my car as empty. The long is my ID type. And based on that, I'm able to do operations. So I can do the create, update, retrieve, delete. Furthermore, I can use in conventions to do query by that. So I have my find by type where I can find information by the car type. I can do the find by name where the implementation itself will implement and do the query by the name. And based on that, the first question that I do have, each database that I'm using right now. So I do have my garage repository, I have my interface, I have my NT, and I have my ID type. Each provider I'm using right now. The answer is unknown, right? Nobody knows each implementation I'm going to use, each implementation I'm using right now, because this semantics is around the data pattern. So if you're going to use SQL, it is fine. If you're going to use NoSQL, it is fine. If you want to use any database engine, is fine as well, because we are going to the data pattern driven design way. And that's the way what's happened. For example, here on this repository, I do have my entity. I have my interface where you'll be implemented by any provider. And for example, given that I'd like to use the relational database, it will convert my entities using the JPA annotation to table. It is fine. I can do it. Or if I wish, I can have my entities, I have my data provider, and using, for example, any solution like Eclipse NoSQL, I can handling that to a JSON or binary JSON file. Both are fine. In fact, to the client, I have no idea. I just know because I'm gonna use the annotation from JPA or Jakarta NoSQL, but it can be anything else. And another thing that I enjoy a lot on Jakarta Data is because it's super accessible. Here, there is a sample where on the built-in sample here, so I do have my data repository that extends the base repository, that extends the pageable repository. So it's a feature to allow to do pagination with data. And if I wish to create several particular behavior, go for it. There is no issue to create particular behavior to specific database. For example, here at Eclipse NoSQL, we do have a MongoDB repository. This one here has the goal to have several capabilities with a MongoDB. MongoDB repository, where I can use several behavior from MongoDB. So I am capable to do whatever pageable repository can do, plus some MongoDB behaviors. For example, the MongoQuery and CountDB repository as well, where I can do whatever the pageable repository can do, plus run query by Nickel, that is specific query for Couchbase. And that is the idea. Again, the idea is not to deprecate the API. It's not to deprecate NoSQL. It's just to make it easier for you to create patterns with data. So I put NoSQL here because NoSQL is my huge background, but you can use relational database as well. So you can have here JPA repository. Indeed, we do have with Micronaut, we do have with Spring and so on. So those guys we took a lot of inspiration for. Besides the built-in repository, what you do have also is the custom interface. Hopefully I said the definition correctly, but anyway, the idea is given I do have the interface, I do have the repository annotation that I mixed in these slides, so sorry for that, but it should have the repository interface. Through those annotations, I can create my own semantic. For example, I can have my garage with the add insert. This method will operate insert car. And with delete annotation, this method will delete some information through the car. So as you can see, the goal here is to have possibility and capability for both. So it doesn't matter if it's a car, if it's a delete, you can create your one way to make it possible. So insert, delete. We also have the update and save annotation. So feel free to use those annotations as well. And more is coming. So it's just the first release. So I'd like to show some code. So what I'm gonna do right now, I will create some Jakarta Data demonstration to you what you do have right now and what it's up to. I will spend 10, 15 minutes, and then I will talk more about what's coming next on the specification. Of course, it is open source. Please, if you do have any feedbacks, ideas, join us on the mail list because it's a community power, right? So we need everybody to give feedbacks about this specification with us. So I will come here with my application. So what I do have here is basically a single Maven project to run with Java SE, where I'm gonna use Eclipse NoSQL, of course, because I have more expertise with NoSQL, but you can imagine using relational database as well. Indeed, we do have an article that cover both. So let's share the link for you. And hopefully you're able to put this link on the YouTube. So if you want to check it later. So I do have my JNoSQL database, MongoDB driver. I'm gonna use Data Faker to make it more easier for us. And then I will start to create my application. So I have my app. My credentials are using Eclipse microprofile JNoSQL because the idea is exactly to if I want to change the production, I can overwrite if without change the code. So that's the beauty of Eclipse microprofile configuration. So my first step is to create my entity. On this case, what I'm gonna do, I will create my beer as entity, create some information. With data faker, I will generate some information, and then we start to play with that. Okay, so I will create my class here that I will call beer, just because I enjoy a lot Mike. Yeah, I know that Mike enjoys a lot of beer, so I will create my beer entity here. So I will create my string ID. So nothing changed here. So style, oops, it's supposed to be style, string hop, string, oops, string mount. So far so good. It's exactly the same thing that I will do with any model. On this case, what I'm going to use is Jakarta NoSQL annotation. So I come here, I'm going to use the entity annotation to define that this class is an entity. I'm going to use the ID annotation to define this class is an ID. And then the fields are going to use the column annotation. So that is what I do have. So I'm going to put private here. If you wish, you can use a record as well. So on that case, we can explore this. So I can come here and I will convert this to records. Just show how it works.
Otavio, we just have a comment,
Yes.
sorry, from Yoel saying you're not sharing the IDE screen.
Ouch. Thank you for that. So
Of
let me share
course.
again. Okay, let's share the screen. Okay, the entire screen right now. So right now I do have my record beer as entity. I create as a class, and right now we convert to a entity. So I come here, and then so I come here. Both ways are fine. So you can use records or you can use the class. Once you just see the records, let's go back to the class. So we're capable to see the both options. So we have the class. So what I'm gonna do is I will create my public static. I will create my static methods to be here. So I will create from faker, and then I took the faker here to be here. So I come here, and then I will create my beer. So I have my beer equals new beer. So I will to define the hop. I will to define the malt. I will to define the style. And for my ID, I will generate by UUID. So no, they don't have it. But anyway, I can generate and then return. So hopefully right now you're able to see my screen, right? Please check. So what did I do? So I have my beer class,
Yes.
those annotations. To define the ID, I used the ID annotation. To define the column, to define the persistable field, I define the column annotation. And based on that, I am capable of um, explore the API. So the next step is I will create my repository to explore more. So I have my beer repository. So it's supposed to be an interface. And right now, what I will do, I will extend my pageable repository where I have two parameters here. The first one is my entity. The second one is my ID type. So beer and then a string because a string is my ID. So once I do have this, the next step is define to be available for me. And how can I do that? Put the repository annotation. So I defined the beer as an entity. I put those informations. I create using static methods the beer from faker, and that is it. So the next step, of course, is to create the beer. So I will come here, you yet. I will create my faker, new faker, and based on your new faker, I will create a new beer. So beer of faker, and then I will create my beer repository. So as you can see, what I do have here is my Java SE container, so Jakarta Enterprise. So I'm using CDI here. I'm using CDI to integrate. So I will inject this repository here, and then I will do my first operation that I will save. So what save means? It will check if the information is there. If this information is there, it will update. If the information is not there, it will insert. So it check by ID and do that kind of operation. So I do my B repository, I will save, then I will take my repository and then find by where I will show the ID, each I don't have it yet. So I will create the getters from these guys here. And also I will create my toString. And finally, the equals hash code by the ID. Okay. So let's save here. Oops. And that is it. So I do have my hash, equal hash code. And here you go. So I do my find by ID, where I return by ID. And then I will check, right? So find by ID, return ID. Then I will delete. So I need to delete by ID, and then of course check it again. So nothing new. I just will formatting right now. So as you can see, I created my beer entity. I put annotations. I created the repository. Put the repository annotation using Faker. It generates data for me, and that is it. So I run right now. and hopefully it will work. So as you can see, the first time I created my beer by ID, so that's my ID, light hydrate beer, bouillon, and the malt is roasted barley. Each I have no idea because I'm not a beer person. My wife enjoys a little bit of wine, but I'm not. I need a good. Okay, I will improve the next beer. Okay, Mike, don't worry about that. Good point. So, what I do have here, based on this repository, I'm able to insert, save, doesn't matter, send the information, and then delete the information. I can do more, of course. I can, for example, create my query dynamically using the query convention where you can access at the specification. So on this case, I have my beer, and then I can find by style. So beer, I do have my style, and as you can see, I'm using find by. It will enable the query convention, and then search to the next term, that is the style. It is a field inside my beer. So as you can see, and I'm return list, but of course I can return optional if I want. I can return a set. Each Jakarta data provider will have the flavors to generate that. Of course, there are the minimum requirement, but anyway, let's focus here. So right now, what I'm gonna do, I will return by style. So I came here, I did a find by ID. Let's create a find by style where I come here, find by style, beer style, and then let's do the query again. So I did a find by ID, and then I did a find by style, of course. And then we remove the information, and of course the information is not there. So let's remove this line here because we know that it's working. Hopefully, let's keep this way. Let's avoid to do something every time. I mean, who knows if it's a math science or some yes, anything else. So right now what I do have the Chinang, pale mouth, the India style. So right now we have the judge to see if it's a good or not a good beer. So please put your opinion on that. So we're able to do the query, we have the exists, we have several options, but we do have more flavors. For example, imagine right now that I will generate a lot of data and I want to do a query with that information. For example, I have here my beer, and let's create, for example, a for it on this case. So for it, where I'm gonna use an index of 100, and then of course I generate previously, and then it start to insert a lot of time. Of course, it doesn't make sense for me to, when I do the find down, find the whole information as a string. Okay, that one good question. Does the interface have the style query because of the column in the query, or does it have the column style to implement the interface? Let's check if I got your question. Does the interface have the style query because of the column empty, or does the entity have the column style to implement the interface? Uh, Basically, what we do have the interface here, right? It will match these fields with this annotation here, so this style, and it will read the annotation. Of course, if I do have information here like a native or bird style, I mean, it will find the fields and then convert to a database. Is that what you're looking for, Jen? I'm not sure. So basically, it's abiding to the class, and based on that, I will generate the the native query user notation the same way that we usually do with JPA or Jakarta NoSQL. It doesn't change. The point here is a match. So I will check the style, check here. Okay, does the style exist? It does. So read the notation and check if there is some configuration like, okay, use this name here to native or things like that. Okay, is there any find method in the interface for every column in the entity? Okay, good question. No, I'm doing here on the real time, so it might be a good question. A huge value to maybe next version. So right now, what we have the pageable repository, and when you go to this, we have several methods that we do have. So we have the save, we have the save all, defined by ID, exist by ID, find all, and things like that. Count, delete by ID, delete. So there we do have, because the BA repository extends the pageable repository. So to each field that I want to do a query, you need, at least for now, to generate manually this query. However, what you can do as extension is looking for a beer, for example, and then generate automatically both the repository and also the query by the field, if you wish. Of course, it does not belong to the specification itself, but it's one thing that we want to do if you wish. But right now we don't have it. Okay, so to each field, you need to do it manually. For example, okay, especially because you can combine. For example, here, I'm doing the find by style and hop. So I'm doing the condition and another conditions. And you can check the specification because there are several ways to do queries. So basically, the interface you need to create, it will be empty like this, and then you can define the queries in queries way that we want to procedure. Okay, it's up to you. It's not to the specification. And if you wish, you can generate that by using Java Notation Processor with the queries that we wish. Okay. It's fine, Jen. Did I get your question correctly? Hopefully, yes. I'm check the. Okay. Thank you. So if you have any question, please let me know. Returning to the point, so I have my faker, I have my container with CDI where you can use microprofile, microservice, Jakarta, yeserver, whatever. On this case, to simplify, just using Java SE. I have my repository. I will inject in by CDI. I will generate 100 peer types, save it. Of course, if I wish, I can save by the list. It's up to you as well, so it doesn't matter. And then what I can do, I can return all information for me. I can return all the information, or I can paginate it. So let's do the pagination way. So what I do have my pageable, my page, where I do have my So what's going on here? So probably it's complaining. So why you are complaining? Oh, wrong import. That's why. It took from another place. So let's returning. So instead of AWT, let's use the repository where I can take the page number. So I take here the page number. I will set 1. So I will start to read for the page number 1, and then I will return my information from pagination. So what I can do here is return the page 1. Then I have beers. Then I can do my page next, where I do have my second page, and then following the flow. Okay, so right now what I'm doing one type of pagination that we do have support. It is the offset way. We also have the key set way. So let's check. So what I do have here, so I should do something better, right? So let's hold this code. Let's put something like the second page, and then let's put the first page. Okay, and let's execute. So this way, I have my first page and then my second page. Of course, you can define an order. So for example, sort by, and let's check one property here. Let's use style, for example. Right now, I do order by style and take the first page. So it starts with A, and then B, and then D, and then E, and so on. So I'm paginating order by style. So I can do the opposite, so ascending. So this time doing the descending order. Let's execute it again. So right now, of course, it's going to start with W, and then going to V, to S, and so on. So I do have the flavors of the pagination here with repository. And you can combine. For example, I can order by style, and then order by something, and then appending this order the same way that we can do with queries. So I can do find by something and other things. We do have also the query style, where, for example, what I can do, query, is execute the query. So of course, everybody might have the query. The goal here is not to standardize the query. So this one here gonna be a native. So of course, if you're gonna use JPA, you're gonna run with JPQL. If you're gonna run with NoSQL, you might use Cassandra SQL with it might change from the vendor. Okay, so the query itself is not specified by the Jakarta Data specification. Basically, what I do have here on this query may vary from provider. On this case, who's gonna read that is Eclipse NoSQL and translate to MongoDB. So what I'm doing here, I'm doing the select from here where style is name. I can put name or even style, whatever I want. So, but of course I need to match both. And here you go. So I come here again. I do this the query. I do have my pagination. I can take one, and of course I can combine. So just to make it easier, I remove the condition here. Actually, okay, my time is almost over, and I will do the select. But of course, you can do select star, where, or, and, like any convention. And as I said, it may vary from database. So query, what it, the query result, and then I'll execute again. And as you can see, I executed, and then it returned the 100th information. So that's a MySQL result. So it's up to you to decide if you want to use pagination or not, if you want to use a query by string or not. There are more features coming. For example, the static method that you generate some queries, something that make it easier for you. Unfortunately, it's not possible because of the time, but hopefully in the next version, I'm gonna cover it. And we have more ideas coming, and that's nice because more ideas can come from you too. So if you have new ideas, new suggestions, please join on the mail list because it will be super nice. And that is just the beginning. As I said to you, the repository is just one pattern that we can cover on Jakarta Data. We can cover even more. So that's all for today. Hopefully you enjoy. And of course, please let me on Twitter, Otávio Java, LinkedIn, and of course, Jakarta on Twitter, LinkedIn, and also on the social medias.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Otavio, for that excellent presentation. And again, just a reminder for anyone in the audience, we do have a few moments for Otavio to answer any questions. So feel free to put them in the chat or the Ask a Questions tab. I'd just like to take this opportunity to also remind everyone that we are looking to book Jakarta Tech Talks for 2024. So if you're interested and have a great topic that you'd like to share, please fill out the form that I will also provide in the chat. So let's have a look here, Otavio, between you and I. If there is any questions, did you have a chance to answer Jan Nilsson's question?
Yes, hopefully yes. Is there any question that I forget? Let me check. I don't think so. No.
I think you've answered pretty much all of them as we were kind of going through the presentation. So that's great. And there's no questions in the Ask a Questions tab. So that's great. Michael says, thank you. It was awesome. This is great. All right, everyone. Well, thank you again. And Otavio, it's always a pleasure to have you. Oh, we have one. Yoel, thank you, Otavio, for the talk. Is Jakarta Persistence going to be released in G11?
Let's split into parts. Jakarta Persistence is a JPA. Yes, it's going to release. The one that I showed today was Jakarta Data that we are working hard. So we do have Mike here, probably have Nathan here, that we are working hard to make everything ready to the Jakarta E11. And at that moment, we need your feedback. So is the specification readable enough? And this kind of feedback.
Amazing. Jakarta Data, sorry, he corrected it. Great.
Okay, don't worry.
Anything else, anyone?
Give it once, give it twice. Sold out.
Sold out. Thank you again, Octavio.
That's my pleasure. So
Thank
guys,
you so
see you
much,
around.
and we'll see you.
If you remember any new questions, please use Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, to ask me at Otávio Java.
Perfect. Thank you. Ciao, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.